what is it, off of Western Avenue and development. And I know you've got Park Forest right across from your area over there. Is there some type of future projection that you could project into the neighborhood to make it like the bridges or the dams in their area? Do you see, what type of future do you see you want in Beacon Hill?
That's a really good question, sir. And what I want to share with you is I want to start with occupying those vacant homes. I think because what attracted me to my home even back in 1989, I kept driving by this house. It was vacant. It didn't look vacant, but it was vacant because the reason it didn't look vacant was because all the other homes were occupied. I mean, we saw kids riding their bikes and families barbecuing and just enjoying somebody out cutting the lawn and all that. For one year they got ready to raise my property taxes. Of course, I suited up. I took photographs of everything around me was vacant. So I went in front of the hearing officer and I presented my case. He took my taxes back to where they were when I first moved in. So what I want to do is take Beacon Hill back to its first glory and then add something to it. But right now, people need a place. We need to make it look like it's a home for someone. You know, it's just too many vacancies. And if we start with the homes, occupying the vacant homes, putting families that need a place to live. You know, my daughter lives on the 3rd floor in an apartment building. The children want to come ride their bikes and they have to come over to my house to do it. But yeah, once we get that figured out, the homes occupied, then I'm sure we could do a whole lot of other things. Gas stations, grocery store, maybe a little quick mart store or something.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left and one more question.
I now reside in the Park Forest, but I used to live in Chicago Heights, and if I could make a suggestion,
Okay.
if you become alternate, or even if you don't, and you have to rerun later, I would suggest getting the youth more involved in the environment, because you find less pollution when children are more compassionate with nature, and with the forest and stuff, that's something we've gotten away from. I know not everybody's an environmentalist, but everybody needs to understand that you pollute the earth that you live in. And when you throw TVs in the stream, or stereo equipment, or bottles, or whatever, you're clogging the stream, and you're making a problem for everybody. And that's one thing. When I lived there, when I was a renter, I still have business, through there. I have my P.O. box is actually still there, and several businesses I deal with, my doctor and whatnot. Anyways, when you see shopping carts in the stream and all that kind of thing, it just brings your neighborhood down. And I know nature wants to return, because I did see, your mayor was very happy that I saw an eagle in Chicago Heights flying around, looking for the stream, probably trying to find Chuck's sign where the salmon is. But if you could get the kids involved in cleaning up, that's something I noticed. There was no environmental club or environmental group. I know they have a lot of things with the rec center, and that's good. There's lots of positive things, and now they're making that new bike path. So if one thing I talked in my township about, and they kept saying it's not us, it's Chicago Heights, and they went back and forth between the aldermen and the judges, and people would give me their cards about all the tires. It's like everybody from Beacon Hill, not saying that it's all them, threw a tire in that stream. There was hundreds of tires. Chuck told me about it. When I went and looked at the stream, I was devastated. It would be like everybody that moved out left a tire. It was incredible. So if we could somehow teach the kids more.
I'm going to give her 1 minute to respond to your comment.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That was really great. And I would like to include the teen and the teens and the young adults. I would like to include them in a whole lot of things. That's why I intend to make the monthly meetings enticing to them. Not just having some chicken wings there. I want to have people there recruiters to, possibly give them jobs or whatever. Even if I have to pay someone something. I cut my own grass. When I finish cutting and trimming my evergreens and all of that, I'm sweeping my curb. I just feel like if we can, as a whole, fill those vacancies, and make it look like a community again. And I think everyone would take pride in where we live, be it Beacon Hill. I had gotten to a point where I wouldn't say Beacon Hill, I live in Chicago Heights. Now I work in Ford Heights at the clinic. I'm in Ford Heights saying, trying to be ashamed of where I live in Chicago Heights. That's ridiculous. And I really want to, get the pride, bring the pride back to the neighborhood. And I know I'm not going to be able to do it by myself. I'm living in a vision, and I plan to make everyone else, live in it with me.
All right, Renee, your time is up, but we'll come back for questions after
Thank you.
Chuck's
Thank you,
opportunity to speak.
everyone.
This is my nephew. It's already 5 blocks from you. He lives in Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill, he got a lot of friends. So,
I know this
So you
man.
kind of get
yeah, Aldo Rojas,
30 minutes. You could-
he's like, yes. He will work for you. If you mention my name, he will. Yes.
Anyway, thank you, Renee. I'm Chuck Derringer, and I'm running for the north end of Chicago Heights, but as I stated earlier when we started this meeting, I've been here close to 40 years, and I know this community pretty well. And I know there's some neat things that Renee doesn't know about over there in Beacon Hills. There's a lake just on the east side of Western Avenue, and part of that land is owned by the city for that lake, and the other part is owned by the Archdiocese. And that lake should be holding more stormwater instead of letting it get into your basements. So, I mean, there are some things that go on. But even more exciting than that is the salmon that swim up Thorn Creek. And the sign is at my house right now because they just completed the bike trail underneath Route 30, and they took down that tree that it was on. But it's going back over there because right down at the east end of Beacon Boulevard is where the salmon go up that long run and go up that stream. That's a tributary that goes over here to Park Forest, to the wetlands. That's real clean water coming through there. And that's where the salmon go. And that's also where the tires were. And the city was in there last week. Apparently they knew we were gonna have our meeting because we all complain about tires. And it's not your neighborhood. People go there because your neighborhood watch maybe isn't in place yet to call when they're dumping in the middle of the night. Maybe those lights aren't bright enough. They want to throw them over there and then they end up in the creek. And we have a lot of problems. I mean, tires in the creek do provide some fish habitat, but and they're sort of neat when you're canoeing and you run into them, unless it's too shallow. But anyway, back to Chicago Heights, though, in general, I've been here 40 years and I've seen a lot of things that we need to do differently. And
Is that lake that's full of carp?
no, I don't know that there's carp in there. I haven't actually fished in there. Paul, you might know. What's in that lake over there? Or do you want to tell us?
No comment on that one.
Paul is a member of my canoe club, so we don't really canoe in little places like that. About, 1992, Sharon, my wife Sharon's out here, we won an award from the city as the Chicago Heights Canoe Club, which sort of kicked us off, and we now are the Thorn Creek Water Trail Canoe Club. And so we go around and parades and try to build up interest in canoeing and recreational activities. Then I discovered people coming out of Chicago Heights, Bloom High School, do not even learn to swim for over 10 years. They have not had there's both schools, neither swimming pools operating. So those are some of the things that led up to my deciding to run at the last minute. I was concerned about the Park District possibly getting a pool and not working with the high school. Well, turns out all those gifts that Governor Quinn gave in the fall have been rescinded by the present governor, so there's not going to be a pool down there by the hospital. I wanted the money, if it did come, to go to repair the 2 existing pools. My kids learned to swim at Bloom High School. I actually live in the Homeland Philosopher School District. Our taxes are higher than yours, quite a bit. But there are a lot of good things that we have to do in this community. On the east side, we have acres and acres of vacant land, and you'll see the fire hydrants out there. We just recently bought 10 new fire hydrants to replace other ones that aren't working. We could have disassembled them. I mean, they're $10,000 a piece. I mean, those are the kinds of things, but $10,000 is not going to balance our budget. The governor is going to put the state back on its feet, and he's going about it. Our city's gonna lose millions of dollars. I mean, Ford Heights, you mentioned you work in Ford Heights, I go to the board meetings, because when I was highway commissioner back in 1992, they got flooded frequently up to Wentworth Avenue. And I had the Corps of Engineers phone number, and they were out there before the flood went away, and they saw what was going on, and they eventually got Deer Creek straightened out, and they're gonna actually add, their models were off a little bit, they still get a little bit of flooding, but they're gonna raise the berm even higher. That came out at a recent meeting of the Little Calumet Watershed Group that I belong to. MWRD now is in charge of that, and they're gonna go back and do some more repairs over there. There's a lot of big carp over there, but not Asian carp. Asian carp haven't gotten to this part of the watershed yet. You have to go all the way up to Thompson, Illinois to get that good stuff that we were tasting back there, and it's smoked in applewood. And that is a neat fish, and I've been involved with it for at least 10 years or more. When I attended, Susan Garrett was the senator of the Environmental Committee for the Illinois Senate. And back when the people from Michigan want us to kill all the carp, I went to those hearings and I learned a lot. I think I had hiccups at the time, so I didn't say too much, but I did my research. And I put my comments in writing, and I believe they put them all in the state register. Because it turns out these Asian carp, and I want to get off the track, because I think someday they're going to be here in Deer Creek. And I think we may in fact be over here in Deer Creek for people in Fort Heights. I mean, this is the kind of things that's going on around the state. I go to a tournament down in Peoria every year. People come from Canada to fish these Asian carp. I mean, this is neat stuff. And we're talking about the healthiest food that we grow in this country. These fish are vegetarians. They don't eat other fish, so they don't have any mercury in them. And everything that isn't processed into fish goes into organic fertilizer. There's a fleet of 70 trucks that delivers that fertilizer out to the farm so we can get good organic food. So I mean, that's what that story is about. And it's an exciting story, but you don't hear about it because of the special interests that like to sell boats and make people think they can go fishing in Lake Michigan when the zebra and the quagga mussels have changed that lake. So there's very little left out there. That's a food desert. And the only reason the Asian carp would ever go out there is if there's algae blooms, and they do that in Lake Erie, because they will eat that algae, which contains botulism, and their body will digest that and turn it into good food. So I mean, that's God's blessing. We should rename them God's fish. As far as I'm concerned, that would be my choice. But they're here to make our environment useful for us, and when we mess it up. Anyway, back to Chicago Heights, I have a handout here. I've tried to encourage the city to buy natural gas powered cars. I've been involved for police cars. Those are the safest vehicles that using natural gas powered cars. You can shoot at them. We don't want to do that, but even if they're hit with armor-piercing bullets, they don't explode. But a regular car being hit, and you know, we got all kinds of problems with people with things that are going on. We just want to make our police department as safe as we can, and we also want to protect our environment. Now, I was involved in the Green Vision that was created here in 2003. And in 2000, Leon, I see him shaking his head over there, he was involved. We had a very good study about, and we surveyed people through Perry State College and various places, but we got their opinions. I have a copy of it back there on the table. We got 20 years, we've gone into it 11 years, we haven't done too much. But there are things we still can do. And we now have the east side, because our population has continued to dwindle. And quite frankly, my vision is that the people from Fort Heights, there's only 2,000 of them left, they move over here and start taking up some of these homes, because I think they're better quality homes than what they have over there. Now, Mayor Gavin and I don't quite, there's a lot of pride in Fort Heights. You work over there, you know what it's all about. I actually came up with a name for our combined towns. And Chicago Heights is, of course, bigger, so I would call it Chicago Fort Heights, because we got to give recognition to that Ford plant. That's the biggest asset we have around here. But the community college, Prairie State College, is certainly a very worthwhile resource, and they have a sustainability program. And I tapped into that recently. Park Forest has a sustainability program. But about a year and a half ago, tell me my 10 minutes up, no, probably ask for 5 more. But about a year and a half ago, the Corps of Engineers came to ask me, because of my watershed issues, I'm trained in watershed sciences, as it's noted in there, about taking the dam down at 26th Street. This dam was built in 1928 to protect Glenwood and our communities from flooding. Unfortunately, the Forest Preserve owns it, and they don't take care of it, it's filled up with mud and silt. So versus remodeling it, which is what we're trying to hold out for, and just Monday night, I was in Valparaiso where they got the Corps of Engineers to remodel a dam 3-4 years ago and upgrade it. And I think that may come sooner or later. You know, they're spending $200,000 studying the problem. But if they take the dam down and Glenwood becomes New Orleans, I mean, that might be good for the people not having to go so far to New Orleans, to go down and see a flooded town, you know, but that's not, so they got some challenges, but I think the Corps of Engineers has some good intentions, but we're keeping an eye on them. There's good communications going on. So anyway, and I'm coordinating that. Prairie State College was nice enough to loan me the use of the facility. They came out, and I think it was November release. We had the representative from the Corps of Engineers, and of course, everybody went away, oh, this is great, they're gonna do all these wonderful things. Well, some of those wonderful things may or may not work, and if they don't work, they may have to put the dam back. They're gonna open up the notch out the spillway, and they're actually doing